Okay, I am going to be reading to you about the immortal cell because I think this is important in the study that I am doing, because maybe I'm looking at the immortal cell. Now, I'm not talking about all this light in the light photons that I'm able to get, but a little gel-like substance that you will see that moves into them. I'll show you when I'll talk about it. Well, right here it is. See this little gel-like substance right here. Now that is similar sounding to what I'm going to be reading about in this book, Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Book 5. And the chapter is called Life Eternal. And I will begin reading it now. But before I do, I have my camera trained upon the gleaming, shiny part of some marbles. And I get these orbs that show all this color, and you can sort of like look around inside of it. If you move your camera about like it was your eye, you can look up and down and around, and you see this sort of field or landscape just kind of continuous. You will be seeing that though. And I'm sorry about the movement, but a lot of it is inside the orb, because the orb, the colors and things inside the orb are moving all the time. Plus I'm moving my camera around a little bit to get different views of what's on that other side, it seems to be. What the orb is giving me a view of. So I move the camera around to get that, like I'm doing right here. But while you're watching this, listen to me read from this book and Life Eternal. From a select amoeba, the divine image never changes. It dominates the ideal and perfect form and passes on that perfect form unchanged to every new cell that is created in the entire form. Thus, every cell of the bodies of the entire human race not only has the perfect, but is the perfect image of supreme intelligence. Thus, we have the unassailable proof that man, or humanity, is the divine, supreme intelligence, which is God, the conquering Christ, God-man, the result of the complete coalition of the Trinity. Indeed, every seed has the exact image of that which it will produce. Now, let us sit quietly and look directly at this select amoeba and its ability to reproduce and send forth and unerringly implant its perfect image into every cell that, through multiplication, forms not only the human form, but every tree, every blade of grass, every flower, every crystal, and every rock, as well as every grain of sand. In fact, by the close examination of crystals, all rock structure can readily be classified. It is thus with every grain of sand, as well as with all minerals. This crystallization is the foundation from which we learn their relationship to the whole, and their relationship and economic value to humanity. Tickling in my throat. I must drink some water here. Maybe that'll relieve it. Let us return again to the high magnification and rapid photography which is being developed. We find that the minutest seed, when its germ cell is photographed under high magnification, has the exact form of that which it will produce and bring forth unerringly, and it is giving off a wavelength or a vibratory frequency which accompanies it throughout its circle of productivity. And through its frequency of vibration, it attracts to itself the energy that is necessary for its development into maturity. And this frequency of vibration, which is the divine life essence, which accumulates or draws to itself the substance, not only gives life to the tree, the flower, and all vegetable life as well as all minerals and metallic substance, but it is the very life of that substance. Now we are free to say that all substance has life expressing through it, and there is no change from that divine plan of perfection until man, through his thoughts, either enhances or debauches the perfection. It is also found that man is able to influence these emanations of perfection to a larger and greater productivity of presenting greater and greater thoughts of productivity and more abundant perfection. Let us return again to the amoeba or first cell. While this cell is entirely different from that of the vegetable or mineral, its rate of vibration is much greater and is not to be compared with that of the mineral or the animal. It is found that its rate of vibration is the force that draws its energy or substance to itself, which causes its growth into new cells, which finally builds a human form, and the passing on to every cell created the first perfect and undeviating form of divinity. It now can definitely be seen that when humanity cooperates and in no way, through thought or expression, interferes with the ideal of divinity. I'll stop right here. See, this is what I'm filming through. I made this the other night. It's a bunch of marbles in various places on this cardboard. And you see, when you go straight into it, focusing your digital camera, you will get these orbs. And this is from the gleams of light off of the marbles. Thus we can say that it is God body, pure and perfect. Let us see that divine energy and intelligent principle emanating from the single cell or amoeba, which its own principle of great vibratory frequency began drawing energy to itself, and then began dividing and multiplying until it came into a great focal point or form, wherein it could emanate and direct all forms as well as put forth forms as of the image of itself. Humanity has never deviated from that perfect pattern or image. Photography shows those perfect forms, not only surrounding every form, but also other perfect forms coming forth. Where the scientists lack evidence, we have forged ahead to the complete knowing that we are that great emanating frequency. Sit quietly for a few moments with the statements, God, I am as all are. God, I am divine intelligence. And know and then admit to yourself, with all doubt removed, I am divine principle. I am divine love, and it flows through me to all the world. Then see yourself as God, and everyone you meet or see as God, and you will see that which is being accomplished in the sub-microscopic zone of life, for you will see an almost invisible drop of protoplasm that is transparent, jelly-like, capable of motion, drawing energy from the sun. It is already capable of using the light of the sun to break up the carbon dioxide in the air, forcing the atoms apart, seizing the hydrogen from the water, and producing carbohydrates, thus making its own food out of one of the world's most stubborn chemical compounds. I want to interject here before reading any more. See this in this corner right here? That looks like that gel-like substance that is the first cell. Directing all this color is coming because I have a LED light in the room, and most of the room is dark because I do this in the evening when there's not a lot of sunlight coming in. And so that gives me more brilliant colors. But you can go outside and use the marble structure that I have. And the sun itself makes these orbs and has color in it too, but not quite as bright because there's so much light. But color nevertheless, and movement of little things through the light. But it's astonishing to me that the sunlight and the light from a lamp in your room, it's the same difference. I get the same kind of orbs when I take pictures of orbs outside as when I take them in my room. It's just way more comfortable to be sitting at my desk in my room. So I do more like that than I do the other. But this summer is on us, and I'm going to go out there and get some more outdoor orbs made by the sunlight instead of all my orb pictures being mostly from the LED light. Okay, now let me continue reading. This single cell, this transparent droplet, holds within itself the germ of all life. It not only has the germ, but it has the power to distribute this life to all living things, great and small. And it also fits that creature to its environment, wherever life exists, even from the bottom of the ocean to the universe above. Time and environment have molded the form of every living thing so that it meets the infinite variety of all conditions. And as these living things develop their individuality, they sacrifice some of their flexibility to change and become specialized and fixed, losing the power to go back, but gaining a better and greater adjustment to the conditions as they exist. The power of this droplet of protoplasm and its contents is greater than the vegetation that clothes the earth in green, greater than all of the animals that breathe the breath of life. For all life comes from it, and without it, no living thing would have been or could be. You will find that all of this is absolute truth, step by step. Humanity will know, as we know, that man is the universal source of this life. Man is master in the animal as well as in the vegetable and mineral kingdoms, completely endowed with supreme intelligence, in reality, the soul of all things. This divine intelligence man has never lost. He has only become shamefully unaware of this true God heritage through the setting up of his own debased thought structure. Now, in the viewing of this, I was exploring other marbles with light coming through them, but some of them, the light wasn't directly influencing them as much as others. So I got a lot of ones like you sort of get outside when you try to have too much light, or when the sun gives you too much light. I've got to quit interrupting this. This is just very fascinating to listen to. An amoeba is a microscopic, highly developed living cell, composed of untold millions of atoms in orderly arrangement. Size is nothing to the infinite. The atom is as perfect as the solar system. This cell divides and forms two. The two divide and form four, and so on ad infinitum, as cells do in every living creature. Each cell contains within itself the power to produce a complete individual. The cells themselves are immortal. They form the cells of all creatures, animal and vegetable of today, and are exact replicas of their progenitors. We, as all humanity, are well-ordered replicas of billions on billions of similar cells, each cell a citizen intelligently doing its full quota of devoted service. This one cell also has the power to use sunlight to break up a chemical compound and make its own food and enough for its brother cell. You will find that this division is absolutely basic as one of the essentials of life itself. Can it be further denied that man is immortal here, when there is every proof of divinity as immortality? All things that live start from a single cell, and this cell compels all of its descendants to perform the service and follow without deviation. The design of the creature the original cell is to duplicate, whether it be a human, a turtle, or a rabbit. It is found that these cells have distinct intelligence, instinct as well as reasoning power. as it is well known that after division, portions of these cells are forced to change an entire nature to meet the requirement of that being of which they are a part. Why? Because the plan is set forth and is invincible to change. And that is the reason that man is divine, perfect, and invincible. It does not matter what thinking structure he evolves, this plan is absolutely irresistible and can never be changed. It is first principle, dominant and compelling, and is also the very reason that man is capable and abundantly able to reach the highest. In the event he fails to reach the highest in his immediate understandings, all that is necessary is for him to change his thought structure, which has circumvented him, to the true thought structure that is steadfastly fixed within his own mind, of which he always has an inherent instinct, and build a dominant thought structure which will allow him to reach to the highest conception to which thoughts can aspire. His easiest and most successful way of attainment to this highest goal is forever to let go of or drop the thought structure that has bound him to the wheel of repetition, and set into immediate action that which will build up an invincible thought structure which will never fail in carrying him to the highest. The first suggestion is to place in his mind the thought and word God, knowing positively that it is the one point from which and where all success originates, also from which all success emanates. And I'm going to skip over to another part that talks about a civilization that of many thousands of years ago. Kind of starts right here. Man has built all of the great temples that have ever existed or do exist upon the earth, but he has never duplicated this great body temple. It is not only the greatest laboratory ever built, it also has the power of duplicating itself. Man has defiled this body temple to the utmost, even to the place where he is obliged to lay it down in so-called death. Yet it rises again, triumphant. Man, under limitation, is unable to build a human eye, but let man throw off every limitation and he is able to build or renew an eye or any part of the human body, even to overcoming death. There is a divine intelligence and principle, but it was never set up by one being or one man. It was set up by a great civilization of hundreds of millions of people. This thought was set up so dynamically that it saturated every atom of the entire universe as well as every atom of the human body, also with a directing influence upon all things. It was also set up with such power that it became a directing force of mind action where nothing changes. Thus it impressed its power upon every cell of the human form, and the light which denotes this divine intelligence was centered in the first cell, to the extent that divinity has been passed on from generation to generation for billions of years, without a change in the real divine image of each unit of humanity. It will go on unchanged for 100 billion years, as it is established as immutable law. And an established law in the cosmos is unchangeable. Law should be Lord, as there is but one law, one Lord, for all established mind action. Man is the Lord in full control of divine law. Out of this great action came millions of years of peace and thorough contentment. Each one was the conquering Christ King of his own domain, yet a willing helper and worker with no thought of self or selfish ends in that which was for the good of all, as an abundance of all things were there for all to use. Then groups claiming free will of thought and action began withdrawing unto themselves. They longed for a change. They wanted to know of material things. and to think of themselves rather than for the entire group. Thus larger numbers withheld from the main household, as it was called at that time. Finally, the groups of dissenters combined and grew to the extent that their thoughts became chaotic, until the natural elements were thrown into chaos, and a great eruption took place within the sun, which lasted for at least 1,000,000 years. At different intervals have come the planets and the stars of our solar universe. Yet prior to this chaotic condition, humanity had already set up in definite mind action such a divine balance that to chaos has come order, so divinely exact and perfect that the place any star or planet will occupy at any time can be mathematically determined to the second. This balance is so perfect that there has been no variation for 1,000,000,000 years. This certainly indicates eternity. Thus you can readily recognize perfect law, our Lord, in action. And it came into being through a great civilization of the human family, and through their united will of perfect understanding through the civilization. To this divine understanding was given the word or name God. It was fully known that this word could be intoned at the greatest vibratory frequency, as it was placed at the head of all language. In the beginning, the word in no way represented a human form, but it did represent a great divine principle set up by the entire human race. This race lived in heaven, as heaven to them was and is the ever-divine principle, and harmony within the human form, which is the mind called God. From this word, knowing its divine origin and precepts, every divine condition does come to humanity. This divine, just, and perfect law or Lord reigns throughout the entire universe. You now see it throughout the entire solar system, but we know that it is just as positive throughout the entire human kingdom, as well as in the plant, mineral, and animal kingdom. During this chaotic disturbance, nearly all of those who had withdrawn from the great group were destroyed. Those who were left of this group were obliged to seek shelter in caves and wherever they could find protection. Food became scarce, and just the matter of food became so pressing that a large percentage became cannibals. These conditions which they brought upon themselves, and which not only separated them from the great group, but from each other, forced them to form tribes in order to exist, thereby causing them to forget all of their former knowledge, and so they became nomads. These were the forefathers of that race which is called material. And although this separation has carried on for well over 1,000,000 years, there still remains something which may be called a half-instinct through which they feel that they have been a part of the divine plan. Many of these are fearlessly coming forth today and freely proclaiming their lordship, and a portion have advanced to the point where they are entirely free from all bondage. Those who did stand together in the great group went through all of these chaotic changes in perfect peace and composure without any loss of divinity, as they knew that divinity could never be lost or taken from them. For all this, they are in no way claiming any selectivity, neither do they claim any power above that which all can use. During the period that this great civilization reigned upon this earth, the great land areas as well as the seas were peaceful. There were no land or sea disturbances. The breezes were gentle and invigorating, and all of the people traveled at will wherever they wished, as there was no weight or cumbrances, no limitation of time or space. They thought in terms of eternity. All thoughts and words were put forth as divine precepts, and to such a definite purpose that they were firmly fixed and definitely recorded as precepts in divine mind, and these were the foundation and bulwark of a great reservoir that could be drawn upon for every supply, every action, and every undertaking. Thus man had at hand a universal supply for every undertaking and every accomplishment. For all humanity was looked upon as God-man, and the Trinity Our completion, our focal point was God, the conquering Christ, God-man, the Trinity, complete in all. There was not a negative word in the language, neither was there a word for a past or a word for the future. All was here and now and completely accomplished and finished. All of the accomplishments that humanity is struggling with today in order to return to this highest state have been accomplished by this so-called higher civilization. And all of the accomplishments are recorded in record form and are accessible to humanity. As soon as they will look beyond this so-called material age with its welter of divided precepts and personal accomplishments. All of these accomplishments are perfected and fully recorded definitely in the great storehouse of universal mind substance. They can be called forth by mankind as soon as they still the clamor of those who, through their own free will, forged the calamity. The greatest hope is for the future generation. It is quite evident that the younger generation is physically, mentally, as well as mechanically the best of all timber. All that is lacking is courtesy and judgment, tempered by experience. These qualities will bestow maturity. The greatest substitute and guide is habit, for a good habit is as easy to acquire and as difficult to break as a bad one. It is a well-organized thought by those who are the survivors of this great civilization that had every individual been carried out by these great chaotic disturbances, that the precepts were so definitely thought out and so thoroughly recorded in the universal mind substance that not one thing would have been lost. It is a well-known fact that every positive word set forth with a true meaning and definite intent is so fully and intelligently recorded in divine mind substance, which we call God mind, including every action and tone, that it can be recalled. Also, photographic records made to the degree that all may see and hear all of these events. It is a well-known fact that a portion of this great civilization has survived and preserved their identity. Although they have withdrawn into more or less seclusion, nevertheless they are awaiting the time, which is not far distant, when they may come forth and proclaim their identity. It is now stated that this time will be when a sufficient number have let go of their preconceived ideas of a personal God or great being outside of themselves, and accepted the Trinity God, the conquering Christ, God-man, in all, and capable of being set forth through and by all mankind. These records can in no way be varied or distorted, neither can so-called time distort them. These are no miracles or superhuman experiences. They are natural, fixed conditions. In fact, they are of the same fixed law that governs and rules all of the planetary systems of the universe. The wonder is that this law and its influences speak more loudly than any words of the greatness of man's ability to achieve. The great beauty and purity of it all is that this was in no way a great dominating or supernatural race, just as you and I are today, all in the same image and likeness, the same and one God. Then let us all worship together this one great, noble God-man, looking first for God in all, then seeing the conquering Christ in every face, uniting all in God-man, knowing that every image that is set up outside of man is but an idol with feet of clay that is readily broken by the spoken word. With this you can clothe all science and all religion, with the same garment from the one source, as all is one truth. Truth is the law of all science. By thinking divinity, man establishes divinity within himself, and also adds to the great reservoir of cosmic energy and force, that force becoming a great power within itself. You are capable of setting up such a force and building it to a higher degree of activity. There are millions adding to that force all of the time, and you can join them if you will. And thus, I've read that portion. I do read this entire book. It is on my playlist. I'll see if I can't put it over in the description bar. This is volume 5 of the Masters of the Far East. And just want to add one more little thing here. I got a little more time. These pictures I am taking of orbs, well, they're not getting any attention from the quantum physicist. And if any one of you knows how to get their attention, let me know. I would like them to look at this. I would like them to see that we can see things that are tinier than what they're saying they're seeing in the atom now. The God particle or something like that they're looking for, the Higgs boson. Well, they name a new particle every few months because they're always finding something tinier. But I think what the light is revealing, this reflected light from a light source, is revealing to us something that isn't really material. I think it is a photon of light which carries within it so much information, and we see it as color and movement and all these various things you've been seeing flash before you here when I'm showing you these pictures. And I think it's something quite amazing, and that what our challenge would be to understand this light, these photons, the colors, everything, to try to understand what message it is bringing to us. Because it's not going to spell it out in English or any other language. It's a language of light. And when you think about it, this is a reflection of light, and we are light, and we are a reflection of light. So it's just really a matter of light trying to understand other light. And I welcome anyone, whether they're scientific genius or not, just anyone who wants to get their digital camera out and take pictures of light gleaming off of marbles. Inside or outside, start looking at this. Because what you become familiar with and you make part of your life is what is your desire, and God causes what you desire to grow. Ever since I've been seeing this light, every few days I see something different. Something added, something more. It evolves. And at one point when I first started seeing it, I could see a portion of what seemed to be a portion of my own eye. It was like two little flaps like this. And that doesn't look like an eye, does it? But the reason I say it was my eye was because when I would shut my eyes, it shut. When I would open my eyes a little bit, it opened a little bit. So it fluctuated with the movement of my eye. So perhaps I was looking at my third eye. And I think my third eye is being opened up, but I don't think it's fully open yet. But it's in the process, and it's exciting. And to study light, I don't know of a subject any better than that one would be if you too wanted to study light. Because it's not something you have to go to a college or have great amount of money to research, because all you really need is a digital camera and a light source and marbles, anything made of glass. Different shapes of glass show you the photon of light slowed up so that you can take its picture. But when you use something other than a marble, they will be some other shape than round. If you've seen some of my pictures of photons of light, you'll see that they fan out like a fan, and they look like a worm or tube or something like that, and they reflect all kinds of colors. We're surrounded by light, and we're surrounded by fields, because when I look into this light, I see a whole landscape. But if I turn my glance through the light reflection just a tiny bit, one way or the other, the whole field is another whole field with another look to it. Similar, but not the same. And on a different field, it might be like one field I look at looks a little like diagonal shaped, like I'm looking across a diagonal landscape like that. And then the next one will look pretty straight, and then there'll be one that looks like it's curved upward. So I'm thinking that all around us light is all the time in activity, and it wants to communicate with us. But what we have to realize is the atom and the electrodes, the cells, all of these we have to respect. And we have to watch our thoughts, because we're giving our vibratory note to every thought we think. And sometimes our note is dire. I mean, some of us, and I don't like to say this, but I'm going to, some of us are so into conspiracy theories that we're almost ready to go to war, to rebel, and that would be the very wrong thing to do. Maybe there are conspirators out there who have no good plans for humankind. I'm not real sure or read up on all of that. But I do know if there is such, then what we have to do to combat that is not to rebel and strike against it, but to love them into the light. That doesn't mean you condone what they're doing. It means that you don't think of them as you don't say in your mind there's no worth or value to them at all, and it doesn't matter what happens to them, because it does. They're part of you. I mean, we're all one in this world. That's not a message that a lot of people that are in fundamentalist churches want to hear. They don't want to hear that we're one with everything. If there's something you don't like, you think you don't want to be one with it, but guess what? You are. And so you want to learn a little bit about what energy is. Energy can't be, they say, can't be created or destroyed. So you never destroy the enemy. You multiply it when you hack away at it. You just make more enemy. So only thing that you can do is transform. Energy can transform other energy. So be a transformer. And to do that, you have to change your thoughts about the one you call enemy. And it's a whole lot like what Jesus said, love your enemy, because there's great power in loving the enemy. Hard as it might be to do, it's really the only thing to do. And I will end this. This is the Dove Lady, over and out. Comment if you wish. I love hearing from people.